What if I told you that one of the greatest historical discoveries ever made, a discovery that would literally rewrite history, was found by accident? It's like finding a message in a bottle, but one that's been waiting for 2,000 years, hidden in one of the most desolate places on Earth. We're about to unpack an incredible story.
So our story starts right here, in the blistering heat of the Judean desert. The year is 1947. A young Bedouin shepherd, Mohammed Ejdib, is out looking for a stray goat. He idly tosses a rock into a cave up on a cliffside, and what he hears back is not what he expected, the distinct sound of shattering pottery. What he found inside would completely shake up our understanding of ancient religion and history.
Because what he had stumbled upon was nothing less than a hidden library. These were precious scrolls carefully tucked away in clay jars and secreted in these caves, where they sat in total silence for nearly 2 millennia.
I mean, just let that sink in for a second. 2,000 years. These unbelievably fragile documents survived the rise and fall of empires, countless wars, and just the sheer passage of time, all because they were sealed away in the dark. It's a story of preservation that's almost too incredible to believe. You can imagine this discovery sent scholars around the world into a frenzy. It raised this one, massive, burning question. What kind of knowledge was so important, so precious, that a community would go to such incredible lengths to hide it? What secrets were they protecting?
Now, you might be thinking, okay, so they found some really old copies of the Bible. And you're right, they did. In fact, they found parts of every single book of the Hebrew Bible except for the book of Esther. But that's not even half the story. What they discovered was so much richer and way more complex than just that.
The sheer variety of what they found is just staggering. This wasn't just a collection of scriptures. It was the entire library of a living, breathing community. It had their rulebooks for daily life, their personal hymns and poems, their calendars, their prophecies about the end of the world. I mean, it was an intimate look into their entire worldview. But here's the thing. It wasn't like finding a neat stack of books on a shelf. It was more like a massive 2,000-year-old jigsaw puzzle. For decades, scholars had to painstakingly piece together thousands of tiny fragments, some of them no bigger than a postage stamp, just to read this incredible message from the past.
So once you realize the scale of this library, the next question is obvious, right? Who were these people who lived this incredibly disciplined, devout life way out in the middle of nowhere? And why on earth did they hide all of their most sacred texts?
Well, right near the caves, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a settlement known as Qumran, and the general consensus among scholars is that this was the home of the community that wrote and protected the scrolls, a Jewish sect that many historians identify as the Essenes.
And to really get who they were, you have to understand the world they were living in. I mean, look at this timeline. It was an era of non-stop turmoil. They saw foreign kings desecrate the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. They witnessed the arrival of a brutal new power, the Romans, who they called the Kittim in their texts. Their world was defined by crisis and conflict. And what was their response to all this chaos? Radical separation. This quote from one of their own texts says it all. They looked at the mainstream religious leaders in Jerusalem and saw corruption. They believed that the only way to live a truly holy life was to get out, to retreat into the desert and create a community of absolute purity. And this separation wasn't just physical, it was a whole mindset. They developed this really intense and unique worldview that shaped every single part of their lives, from what they did every day to how they believed the world would end. At the very heart of their belief system was this idea of dualism. They saw the entire universe and every person in it as locked in this epic cosmic battle between two opposing forces that God himself had created, a spirit of light and a spirit of darkness. And you can probably guess which side they thought they were on. They called themselves the Sons of Light.
This quote really gets right to the core of their theology. For them, it was a kind of predestination. God had created these two paths, light and darkness, and every single person was assigned to one or the other from birth. This belief gave them this incredibly powerful sense of divine purpose, even when the world around them was falling apart.
And a central character in their story is this mysterious figure they call the Teacher of Righteousness. He was their founder, their guide, an inspired leader who they believed had unlocked the true meaning of the scriptures. Their writings are also full of references to his struggles with an enemy they called the wicked priest, most likely a corrupt high priest back in Jerusalem.
Okay, so we have a lost library from a mysterious separatist community with some really fascinating and intense beliefs. But so what? Why does this all matter so much to us today? What's the real takeaway here?
The answer is that these scrolls gave us something we never had before, an open window. A direct look into one of the most pivotal moments in human history, a time when the seeds of two of the world's major religions were just beginning to sprout. You see, before the scrolls, our understanding of Judaism in this period, roughly between 200 BCE and 70 CE, was kind of blurry. We were relying on texts written much later. The scrolls are a direct, first-hand account from that time. They're literally a time capsule of Jewish belief right before the Romans destroyed the temple and changed everything forever.
And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. Look at these parallels. The idea of a revered teacher who reveals God's mysteries? Well, that concept echoes in both early Rabbinic Judaism and, of course, early Christianity. Their strict community rules, they look a lot like early forms of monastic rules. An intense expectation for a Messiah, or even two Messiahs, that was central to the beliefs of both faiths that came after. The scrolls show us that these ideas didn't just pop up out of nowhere, they were part of a dynamic, passionate conversation that was already happening.
And that brings us to the single most important takeaway. The Dead Sea Scrolls prove that during this era, there wasn't just one monolithic Judaism. There were many Judaisms. It was this vibrant, diverse landscape of different groups, all with their own ideas, all trying to figure out their faith and their future. The Qumran community was just one of those groups, and their library gives us this priceless, unfiltered glimpse into the rich soil from which both modern Judaism and Christianity would grow.
That shepherd's lucky toss of a rock reminds us that history is still full of secrets. The scrolls gave a voice to a world we thought was silent, and in doing so, they changed how we understand the origins of Western religion. It really makes you wonder, what other voices from our past are still out there, just waiting to be heard?